My name is Tim Tavcar. I'm missing Montpelier, but I'm surviving here in Cleveland, Ohio. I would have to say I would just say the Sondheim cycle. I mean, there's more than one in it. There's, of course, Side by Side, which was my very first show, and you always have a special love for your first baby out of the bucket, or as it were. And then the next one I believe I did was A Little Night Music, and then Sweeney Todd, and then Into the Woods. So that was really quite an amazing conglomeration of, great shows, great productions of great shows, incredibly talented casts to work with, and great musical directors and a really fine pit band, as they say in the business. So I think that, although um, in 2019, I did cabaret for Lost Nation Theater, and that was a very special experience because of the power of the show and the real commitment that the entire cast and crew and musicians and everything put into it. It was a fine show, and I had the nice surprise of Kathleen writing to me and telling me it won Broadway World's Award for Best Musical, and yay for Lost Nation for winning Best Theater. Well, I think there's two because I've done a couple of serious shows, but I usually do very, sort of far out. I think Kim said in an interview that I was particularly gifted in those over the top parts. So, um, speaking of over the top parts, I think that my favorite over the top part was probably in Musical of Musicals, the musical. It was a lot of fun. You got to do four different roles and make wonderful fun of, no, is it five actually? Is it? Yes, five. Rodgers and Hammerstein and Stephen Sondheim and who else was that? Oh, Jerry Herman and then Andrew Lloyd Webber and Cantor and M. Hopefully it will be on the Lost Nation Patreon offerings later. In terms of more serious things, one was Dancing at Lunasa, which I played Father Jack, which was a wonderful, dear character. Again, I had a wonderful time with all these talented ladies in the cast. And it was a beautiful part. You got to really delve deep to bring out things to enlighten the text. I had to work hard, which was good. The second one was Amy's View. I played a character named Frank Oddie, who was a wonderful man, a very self-effacing, gentle person who actually didn't get what he wanted. He lost the relationship that he really wanted, but he was able to sort of overcome that and accept it. It was a really much more quiet thing than I usually do. So, it was a little bit of a challenge because I couldn't rely on a lot of my tricks, but really, really, really key into the beautiful text. It was very interesting and extended story about how I came to be associated with Lost Nation Theater. I went to Vermont on vacation in 1995 because a friend of mine had just gone there and came back and he said, "Oh, you have some vacation time. You should go to Vermont. It's just beautiful and it's the fall and the leaves are just trying to change and it's going to be beautiful." So I said, "Well, I had no plan, so what the heck?" So I looked around Vermont and I looked up at Burlington and stuff, and then I saw Montpelier. And I thought, "Ooh, that's a great name. I think I'm going to go there instead of staying in Burlington." So I flew into Burlington because you can only fly into Burlington. And I took a cab down to Montpelier from the Burlington airport, and I stayed at Betsy's Bed and Breakfast. And the weekend I was there happened to be a really incredible weekend for things to do in Montpelier. First of all, and most important of all, I saw a production of A Dollhouse at Lost Nation Theater. Besides that, I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was a really wonderful foreign film with the Savoy. And then I read on one of the postings, on one of the columns outside, that Dalton Baldwin was giving master classes in art song. Now, Dalton Baldwin, for those of you who don't know, was, since he passed away relatively recently, the preeminent pianist for the art song accompanying crowd. And here he was in Montpelier, Vermont, giving a master class. And I have 50 recordings of him in my collection alone. And I thought, what the hell is going on in this city? It's so tiny, but look what it's got. Plus the fact that I had some very good food around and some of the restaurants in town. So I got home, and for some unknown reason, I decided to send a resume to Kim and Kathleen at Lost Nation Theater. They scheduled an audition for me. I went back to Vermont, did the audition. They offered me a couple of roles, and I think something to direct. I'm not quite sure, for the 1996 season, which I could not come to because I was in a car accident and wasn't able to come. So they foolishly decided to take a chance and asked me if I wanted to come in 1997, which I did. And I arrived in a very snowy April of 1997. Kim, God bless him, I had sent my furniture ahead, and he had put it all on the porch of where I was going to live, down on East State Street. And I immediately plunged into the News of the City, Talk of the Town project, which was my first show. And Kim and Kathleen put me on the research team, and I spent a lot of time at the Montpelier Historical Society going through a lot of microfiches. And I certainly got to know a lot about, Montpelier and Barrie and the whole Central Vermont scene from looking at these old microfiches of old copies of the Times Argus. So we did that. That happened. That was the first show that I did that year. And then the second show was something they gave me to direct, a musical review of Stephen Sondheim's called Side by Side by Sondheim. And I had a fantastic cast for it. And we had a really good run. People seemed to like it a lot. And we won a prize when they were doing Vermont Bessies. The musical director and I shared a prize for Best Director that year. And as I said then, and as I say now, because I've now had a 22 season tenure with Lost Nation, that the reason why things are so good is because nobody works in a vacuum, and everybody at L&T has been so supportive and so creative with their own inputs on all the projects that I've worked on anyway. It's been, a true pleasure almost all of the time. Fact of the matter is, because of the kind of theater Lost Nation is, and because of the space that lends itself for this, it's really much more effective to scale things back than it is to try to overstuff them with period clothing or a huge walled set, and things like that. Not that we stint on production values at all, but we work in largely a three-quarter thrust, which is a challenge for director and actors to make sure that everybody sitting anywhere gets their just desserts for the viewing of what's going on. And actually, Cabaret was done in the round. And when Kim and Kathleen informed me that it was going to be done in the round, I went, oh, because I think I've only worked in the round as an actor once before and never directed in the round. So I got out my old how to direct books, from college and things like that, and read all that. And I think it came out very well, and it was absolutely the right choice to direct Always Patsy Cline, with, of course, the wonderful Miss Kathleen Keenan in the title role, and the wonderful Maura O'Brien in the role of Louise. And oddly enough, I knew the writer of Always Patsy Cline when I lived in Houston, Texas. There are 24 songs, I believe. It's 24, at least 24 songs in it that Kathleen had to sing and Patsy has to sing according to the script. And I think I only saw one other production of this a long time ago before I got to direct it, so I couldn't remember anything to steal from it. So I was on my own, kind of. But I really wanted to highlight the relationship between Patsy and Louise because it's so beautiful, the thing that built between them. And so it's not that I pulled focus from the wonderful songs, but we had to do something where the songs, it wasn't like, although it was, I'm sure, to the people. Kathleen, I believe, had at least two dressers back there, didn't you? For that, I think Kathleen had one dresser. Oh wow, Kathleen had one dresser back there. So, and her, of course, her own, agility getting in and out of things. And there are quite a bit of costume changes, but there were a lot more in the original script. So we decided what were the most important looks for her, and that led us to do things like have her not have a single change every time she was seen on stage in another location, which the original script does have. And I do think that that helped balance the show. I mean, the music was wonderful and wonderfully performed, but I think that the audience also got a lot of insight in both of these women, who are, of course, real people, and understood how a really sincere friendship could blossom between two women who barely met each other. And they communicated through letters, signed always Patsy Cline from Patsy, hence the title of the show. As many of you might know, my background actually started out to be musical rather than theatrical. I was an oboe major at Northwestern University, and then I switched to voice. And I sang a lot. I was privileged to sing with the Washington Opera Company at the Kennedy Center, and I've sung in a lot of professional choirs. And around here, I directed the Vermont Gay Men's Chorus, and I sang for many years under Catherine Orr at the Unitarian Church. So I've had a lot of musical experience, and music has played a big part of my life and still does. And one of the great things that has been offered to me by Kim and Kathleen to do at Lost Nation Theaters was that for the shows that I haven't been in as a actor or have directed, I have often been able to participate as someone who provides musical heightening, if you will, to things. I do the pre-show music and the intermission music and the post-show music, and sometimes underscore music, which is my favorite thing to do, within the play. But I think my favorites so far have been Belle of Amherst, which I used all music from the Boston Impressionists period of the time, very much contemporaneous with Emily Dickinson's life. So that worked out very well. And then the Silent Sky, which I used the piano music of Amy Beach, who actually lived in Boston and was concertizing in Boston at the very same time this play took place. And it's quite possible that the ladies that were depicted in The Silent Sky actually went to a concert and heard her, because she was a revolutionary composer, a woman composer for the day. Nobody was doing that. And she got to be extremely popular and composed everything from very small piano pieces to huge symphonies and piano concertos. The last one that I'd like to mention is just this past season, The Turn of the Screw, in which I used all music from Benjamin Britten, and actually some of it from his opera of the same name, of Turn of the Screw. He composed an opera based on The Turn of the Screw. So it was, I thought, quite appropriate and timely. At any rate, it's really a joy for me to get to use my musical background and make a contribution to some of the wonderful shows that Lost Nation has done for the past 22 years I've been associated with them. Well, before I leave, I actually should have started this at the beginning. I should have greeted you all the people in Montpelier that I saw on the street every day, that I saw in the audiences, that I saw everywhere in restaurants and shops. I miss you all very much, and I really do look forward to the time when I can come back and see you all again. I'm having a good time here in Cleveland. I have actually worked a lot more as an actor than a director here, as a matter of fact. But I'm writing a play based on the theories of the death of Tchaikovsky. There's a whole lot of controversy about how he died, whether it was an accident, a suicide, or suicide by murder. Anyway, we very well may, if it's done in time and if it is approved by Kim and Kathleen, we might even get to do a reading of it sometime for your enjoyment and comments, hopefully. That's that.